Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Between the Verses. It's me, Josh.
And I'm Maya. Thanks for being here with us again.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And if you're new here and this is your first time listening, this is a space where we talk about faith, the Bible, and how they connect with everyday life.
And just a reminder, we're not experts. We're just two people trying to make sense of things. We're not here to give perfect answers, just to sit with a few questions. Questions that you too might have about the Bible and how it fits into your lives.
And today's question is, well, it's a big one.
A really big one. We're asking, where is God when suffering happens? What does faith look like when life isn't fair? Or put more simply, why do bad things happen to good people?
I feel this is one of those questions that almost everyone asks at some point in their life. Even people who don't believe in God still wrestle with it. It's a fundamental question about humanity and fairness, I think.
And it's rarely theoretical. It usually shows up when something hits close to home, when someone you love gets sick, or loses their job, or has their life suddenly turned upside down, even though they've tried to do everything right.
Or you just look at the world generally and think, this doesn't feel fair. It doesn't make sense.
So what surprised me back when I started reading the Bible more closely is how often this exact question shows up inside its pages. The concept of bad things happening to good people is not something the authors shied away from.
Yeah, the Bible leans right into it. I mean, one of the clearest examples has to be the book of Job, right?
Oh, definitely. Job is described right at the start as someone who's genuinely good. He's kind, he's faithful, generous. The text makes it very clear that he's not secretly awful or something.
And yet, everything falls apart for him. He loses his family, his health, his stability. And it happens almost overnight.
A lot of the book is actually just Job and his friends sitting around trying to explain and understand why this is happening. They keep saying things like, well, you must have done something wrong. There must be some hidden sin.
Which is a very human reaction. We want suffering to make sense. We want a cause we can point to because that feels safer. Because if bad things only happen to bad people, then maybe we're protected. If we just follow the rules, we'll be okay, right? We'll be safe.
But Job keeps saying, no, I didn't do anything to deserve this. He holds his ground, and the Bible seems to agree with him.
And that's unexpected. It doesn't correct him or offer an explanation for his suffering. Instead, it allows his anger, grief, and confusion to just exist on the page.
And his pain is so raw. In some passages, he accuses God of being his enemy, of hunting him down. And you can imagine, his friends are absolutely horrified. They keep telling him to just repent, to admit he must have done something wrong to deserve this. But Job knows he's innocent, and he refuses to lie just to make the situation more comfortable for everyone.
And what's even more fascinating is what happens next. After all his friends have had their say, God finally speaks to Job, and he still doesn't give a clear explanation for why he suffered. Instead, God simply reminds him of the vastness and mystery of creation. Job is humbled, restored, and his life is renewed. Not because he figured everything out, but because the relationship with God remains intact.
So I think this story teaches us a few things, really important things that relate to modern life. Right off the bat, the Bible allows honest questioning about faith and admits that the answers aren't always perfectly neat.
Right. And via Job specifically, we're shown something that is hard to accept. People can suffer without cause, without a reason we can point to.
What the Bible is saying to me here is that God's presence matters more than a perfect explanation. And frankly, that concept is a tough nut to crack for some people, which I totally get.
Yeah, because when someone is suffering, we often feel pressure to explain it, or even fix it, or turn it into something positive so we can manage and understand some deeper meaning.
We reach for phrases like, everything happens for a reason, or at least something good will come out of it. Every cloud has a silver lining, etc., etc.
And sometimes that's true, but sometimes it can feel dismissive, like we're trying to tidy up pain that hasn't had time to breathe yet.
The Bible seems to recognize that, yeah. Another place this shows up a lot is in the Psalms. There are so many Psalms where the writer is basically asking, God, where are you? Or why are the people doing the wrong things doing so well? There's this deep frustration that the world doesn't line up with how it's supposed to work.
And again, the Bible doesn't shut that down. It includes it as prayer. It preserves that raw human feeling.
For me, this really changes how I think about faith. It makes me realize that faith isn't believing everything is okay. It's being honest about when things are not okay and still choosing to talk to God anyway.
You know, I used to think, maybe not even that long ago if I'm being honest, that if something bad happened, it meant either God was angry with me or I wasn't being faithful enough. That the bad vibes following me around were somehow my fault.
I've felt that too. Lots of people have. Someone, somewhere is having that thought right now. But the Bible doesn't actually support that idea, not when you look at it closely.
Well, there's that moment in the New Testament where people ask Jesus about a tragedy, about some people who were killed, and they're basically asking, were they worse sinners than everyone else? And Jesus says, no.
He just says no, that's right. He doesn't blame them, and he doesn't say they deserved it. Again, no explanation, no answer.
The hardest part of this question for me is that there really isn't a tidy answer, like you said. The Bible doesn't give us a formula. It doesn't say, here are the 3 reasons bad things happen to good people.
Anyone, actually. Good people, bad people, everyone.
Which raises another point, the idea of free will. A lot of suffering isn't presented as punishment at all. It's the result of people making choices, careless ones, harmful and too often terrible ones.
And in some ways, that's a relief, because it means suffering isn't caused by God targeting someone. It isn't God keeping score. But then, if suffering isn't punishment, then what is it? Why does it happen? And why does it touch people who are trying to live well?
The Bible's overall response to that, yet again, isn't a clear explanation. Instead, it gives us stories and people, real, messy people. People who doubt and argue and get angry and confused. People who don't always get the answers they're looking for.
But they keep showing up anyway, looking for guidance.
Right, that's maybe the point. I mean, not maybe, I know it's the point. Faith is not about understanding everything. That would be just...
kind of impossible.
Took the word out of my mouth, Maya. Impossible. We are not designed to understand everything. We are designed to live and learn and love and trust in a world that doesn't always make sense.
A big, old, messy world. But one God still chose to give us.
And that means we've got some responsibility too, right? To look after it and to look after each other as best we can.
Amen. But Josh, I want to ask you, when you look at the world as a whole, our beautiful, messy world, there really is an awful amount of suffering going on, right?
Seemingly in every corner of it, I know.
So where in the Bible do you look to make sense of all that?
Honestly, I don't think there's one single place in the Bible that makes sense of it all. Because when you start talking about suffering on a global scale, injustice, war, or poverty, the Bible gives us a few voices to reflect on. I come back to the Psalms because they don't try to explain the world away. They ask hard questions about why injustice is allowed to continue.
Yeah, there are Psalms that sound really angry and confused.
To me, that shows that faith doesn't require pretending the world isn't broken. And another place I would say I look at is the prophets. They don't spiritualize suffering. They point directly at human responsibility, greed, abuse of power, indifference. They're basically saying, a lot of this didn't just happen. We did this to each other.
Yeah, right. Well, for me, the thing I take a lot of comfort in, I think, is that the whole of Christianity is centered on a God who suffers. Jesus doesn't stay distant from pain. He enters right into it. He weeps, he gets angry at injustice, he heals where he can. His teachings don't give us a way to make sense of all suffering, but they do urge us not to turn away from it.
Which means when bad things happen, God isn't watching from afar saying, figure it out. The promise is that he's closer than we think, present in the confusion, present in the pain, and inviting us not to have all the answers, but to trust him, stay open, and to love anyway.
Nicely put, Josh. Okay, so what are this week's take-homes?
Okay, recap time. Well, first, the Bible doesn't say that bad things happen because you've done something wrong. Suffering isn't a scorecard, and it's not proof that your faith is weak or that God is disappointed in who you are.
And secondly, the Bible gives us permission to be honest about pain and anger. You don't have to clean those feelings up before bringing them to God.
100%. So if you're going through something difficult right now, wondering why it's happening to you, you are not alone, even if it feels like it. The Bible is full of people who ask this exact same question.
And God didn't turn away from them.
That's right. And God won't turn from us either.
So there we are. I guess it's time to bid farewell.
Episode 3 in the can. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. We know this was a heavy one, and we really appreciate you sitting with us.
Next time, we'll keep exploring faith, questions, and everyday life, one short conversation at a time.
Until then, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next episode of Between the Verses.